Okay, we have people joining us. Hello, everyone. We're going to wait a couple of minutes to make sure everybody's on before we start our presentation. Okay, folks are still joining. Maybe one more minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay. All right, why don't we go ahead and get started? I think we are, folks are still joining. Let me just see. All right. So why don't we go ahead and get started and welcome everyone to our Literacy Town Hall. And it's nice to see so many folks that have logged on. So thank you for spending your morning with us. So my name is Kusum Sinha. I'm the superintendent of schools here. And we are excited to share with you our comprehensive approach to literacy, really foundation for all learning. So this morning, we will delve into several key components that form the foundation of our literacy program. And, we always start out with our mission and vision. And so you'll see, and many of you have seen this over and over again, we really stay true to our mission and our vision for our school district. So our purpose for today is for our community to gain a deeper understanding of our comprehensive approach to literacy. And we will begin by outlining our overarching approach to reading and writing and emphasizing the holistic nature of our literacy efforts. So we will talk about the science of reading, the new literacy briefs that were just recently issued by New York State Education Department, assessments and our use of data, our MTSS process, which is the multi-tiered systems of supports for our students. We'll also talk about professional learning and various ways we focus on adult learning in our schools. And many of you, we understand that you'll have questions and we encourage you to hold, keep them in your mind, but hold on to them because it may be addressed during the presentation because our goal is to answer as many questions as we can for you. And again, we look forward to sharing our practice with you. I know in the fall, we've done some literacy and math nights for our parents. We've also presented our PTA meetings around, particularly around literacy, mathematics, done science as well. So we want to share and be very open with what we do in our schools and give you a glimpse into your child's day. So before we get started with us in terms of right now, we have Dr. Alice Bowman. She's our new assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction. We also have Ms. Hand, our principal at Stewart, Dr. Viskovich from Homestead, our principal there, Mr. Hardigan, principal at Stratford. We have Ms. Kaufman, She's going to lead us through this presentation. We also have Ms. Lauren Casada. She's our assistant principal at Stratford, and Miss Melanie O'Done. She is our principal at Hemlock. So with that, I really want to thank everybody who's here today, and I want to hand it off to Ms. Kaufman.
Thank you, Dr. Sinha, for organizing this literacy town hall, and good morning, everyone. My name is Lauren Kaufman, and I'm the Director of Literacy here in Garden City Schools, and it's just such a pleasure to be with you today. This is my favorite slide because this is what our comprehensive approach of literacy looks like in action across the grade levels. So students engage in phonics practice and decoding and encoding during center time. They collaborate on text annotation and share ideas and discussions. They lead Socratic seminars, and our high school students even got to perform read-alouds of popular picture books for our younger students on World Read Aloud Day this year, so that was exciting. Our learning community is so dedicated to creating meaningful literacy experiences for our students. So I'm going to start today by defining Garden City's comprehensive approach to literacy. In Garden City, we believe in a comprehensive approach to literacy instruction. Our approach is rooted in the Next Generation New York State English Language Arts Standards and the New York State Department of Education Science of Reading Literacy Briefs, which I will talk a little bit more about very shortly. Our approach is a blend of practices grounded in building a strong foundation in reading, writing, speaking, listening, and metacognitive skills. You can also find a more detailed definition of our comprehensive approach to literacy on the district website literacy page. Much has been learned in the past few decades about classroom instruction that effectively promotes the literacy development of high-level reading and writing skills. Based on both literacy research and general research about how children learn, Garden City Public Schools has established 11 core principles. All 11 principles can be located on the district website on the literacy page, but we wanted to revisit the first principle with you today. Reading and writing must be taught. They are not instinctual processes. So our curriculum really covers key components in reading and writing. Reading includes phonemic awareness, phonics, print concepts, sight word recognition, vocabulary, oral language, comprehension, and fluency, which I'll get a little bit more into in a little bit. And writing involves structure and development, conventions, including spelling and strategies within various genres like narrative, opinion, argument, informational writing, and poetry. So all of these components of reading and writing are really consistent with solid research and the Science of Reading Literacy Briefs. So in January of 2024, the New York State Education Department, in collaboration with BOCES and the Big Five school districts, hosted a statewide literacy conference. And this hybrid event really provided New York State teachers and administrators and literacy leaders with an opportunity to strengthen their knowledge of evidence-based literacy practices in pre-K through 12 education, as educators from across the state came together to focus on research-based practices and the science of reading to support learning and development. Participants had the opportunity to learn about the 7 literacy briefs with this team and keynote speaker, Dr. Noni Lasso, who is a professor of education and human development at Harvard Graduate School of Education. So the state really provided the school districts with a clear and helpful roadmap. And this guide was created to help districts understand the science of reading, its connection to writing, and what it looks like and feels like in the pre-K, elementary, and secondary levels. They also included ideas for thoughtful implementation to lead this important work effectively. The literacy briefs are strong and will give us a good path forward. So to ensure that we all have a very clear understanding of the science of reading, let's define it together as it is communicated in the Science of Reading Literacy Briefs. The science of reading refers to over 50 years of interdisciplinary research that explains how children develop reading, and writing competencies and skills. This extensive body of research informs instruction from early childhood through adolescence and emphasizes the importance of structured literacy instruction to develop Big Six skills and competencies. It also suggests key instructional approaches to building literacy skills, many of which also cultivate social emotional skills. The science of reading is not a single approach or entity, but it's a large, diverse body of evidence that guides how we create our curriculum and teach our students. This research also includes principles and practices for research-based instructional design and opportunities to learn. I will be discussing the Big Six skills and competencies soon, which are crucial for effective literacy development. It's also important today to ground our definition of reading. Reading is a complex skill made up of different components working together, much like strands on this rope. The Scarborough's reading rope is a model that illustrates this complexity. The rope consists of two main sections, word recognition and language comprehension. Word recognition includes skills such as phonological awareness, decoding, and sight word recognition. Language comprehension involves background knowledge, vocabulary, language structures, verbal reasoning, and literacy knowledge. When all of these strands are strong and work together, they create skilled readers. In Garden City, we use this reading rope in our professional learning to help teachers understand their students as readers. Because if one of these strands becomes frayed or weak, that's where we need to focus our efforts to strengthen that specific area of need. As you can see, reading is a complex process. In this slide, you'll see the Big Six skills and competencies on the left side. The science of reading highlights key skills and competencies that support effective reading and writing. These skills are reinforced and enhanced as they are applied in writing, which in turn really bolsters their development. So the Big Six include oral language, which involves speaking and listening, phonological awareness, which is when students are able to identify and manipulate sounds. Phonics is matching sounds with the letters that represent them. Vocabulary is really comprised of words and meanings. Fluency is the ability to read accurately with expression and at an appropriate rate. And then comprehension is really the ultimate goal of reading, and it really involves meaning making. It's really like reaching the top of the mountain and seeing the view. On the right-hand side, you'll see Garden City's comprehensive approach to literacy infographic, which is tightly aligned with the Big Six skills and competencies from the New York State Science of Reading Literacy Briefs. This infographic was actually created and posted on the district website in the 2022-2023 school year and was being utilized in Garden City before the literacy briefs were rolled out. The only component added was the oral language, a competency that we've always taught, but wanted to ensure was included in this document as it is really an entry point to strong reading comprehension skills. In Garden City, we continue to strengthen our literacy instruction and have ensured application of the science of reading in our comprehensive approach to literacy. We have already begun implementing these practices. We've added additional phonological awareness instruction. So for example, we have added foundations for grade 3 students next year to continue to provide systematic, explicit phonics and morphology instruction. We have increased phonics application skills in decodable texts. For example, we implemented GEOD's decodable texts this year, kindergarten through 2nd grade. They are aligned with our Foundations program to ensure that students are applying phonics explicitly taught in connected texts. We are also focusing on increasing building background knowledge for our students and are adding units of study using our curriculum articulation documents and adding science and social studies text sets. We have enhanced our MTSS Universal Screening Assessment Suite. For example, we have added additional decodable measures and have eliminated Fountas and Pinnell levels A through C, which are predictable text, and put in decodable running records. We have many resources that support phonological awareness instruction. Let's take a look at how we use various resources to support literacy development in our students. You'll see images of the Hegarty program supporting phonemic awareness, Fundations, which is a multi-sensory approach that focuses on phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, letter formation, and encoding. The GEODS text, decodable text, are used for application of phonics and building background knowledge. And the Garden City Writing Revolution resource to support sentence and paragraph structure across the content areas. Words Their Way is a word study program that helps students understand spelling patterns, phonics, and vocabulary. We curated social studies and science text sets that are aligned with the scope and sequence at the elementary and middle school levels to ensure that students have rich content-specific materials that build background knowledge to support their literacy development and deepen their understanding of all of these subjects. Now I'm going to show you the types of assessments and data we collect. The universal screeners are assessments administered to all students in K through 8. The purpose of these assessments are to help identify students who need additional support. They provide initial data on student performance. They assist in determining where to allocate resources and support. Here are some examples of the assessments we use. We use Hegarty in kindergarten to assess phonemic awareness skills. We use the RAN in kindergarten 2, which is the rapid automatized naming. This assessment measures the speed and accuracy with which a person can name a series of familiar items like letters, numbers, colors, or objects, and it really helps us assess processing speed and can identify potential reading difficulties. The NWEA reading fluency at the end of kindergarten and in first grade measures and monitors oral reading fluency, literal comprehension, and foundational reading skills. And the NWEA MAP growth reading measures overall reading skills, including comprehension, vocabulary, and the ability to analyze literary and informational texts in grades 2 through 8, and they're administered 3 times a year. We also have diagnostic assessments that are formal and informal, and they're used to really pinpoint specific strengths and areas of need for each student. The purpose of these assessments are to provide a thorough understanding of a student's strengths and assess for improvement. And it helps teachers plan targeted instruction based on the individual student need. And it also aids us in making informed decisions about student supports and interventions. So here are some examples of assessments we use. So we use Fundations unit tests to measure students' understanding of phonics, spelling, reading skills taught in each unit. Words Their Way spelling inventories measure students' understanding of spelling patterns and their ability to apply these patterns to different words. We use running records to assess reading behaviors, including accuracy, fluency, and comprehension. And on-demand writing assesses students' ability to write effectively on a given topic within a time frame, within a set time frame, focusing on structure, development, conventions, and coding skills. And these assessments are administered 3 times a year and as needed. Progress monitoring involves more frequent assessments to measure student progress. The purpose of these are to help us continuously monitor how students are progressing towards their learning goals. We use this data to tailor and adjust instruction based on the student's needs. And we really make informed decisions about the effectiveness of these interventions and adjust them as necessary. So here are some examples of the assessments we use for progress monitoring. Decodable measures such as words, phrases, and sentences are aligned to foundations and help us understand if the phonics skills that were explicitly taught are mastered. We can use informal running records in various texts to measure accuracy, fluency, and comprehension. And that could be in decodable books, different genres, grade level, and content-specific materials. And writing samples help us to look at encoding skills, as well as structure development and conventions of writing. And these assessments are really administered more frequently. In our assessment suite, we also have if-then assessments. So what that means is that these are used to really gather more information about a student's specific needs. So for example, if a child's struggling with phonological awareness, we can use various assessments such as DIBELD and the PAST to get to the heart of the challenges those students may have. And the same is true for fluency and comprehension. These are all examples of the assessments we have in our toolbox. Sometimes we choose to give an assessment to all students in selected grades. In the 2022-2023 school year, we wanted to check on the phonological awareness skills of our students in grades 3 to 5. So we administered the Phonological Awareness Skills Test, otherwise known as the PAST, to all of those students in grades 3 through 5. This really helped us to identify any students who might have struggled with phonemic awareness, ensuring we can provide them with the support they need. As you saw before, we have other assessments in place for our kindergarten through second grade students to ensure that we are identifying those students who need early intervention, targeted intervention. Over the last few years, we have also added a speech and language teacher to work in the kindergarten and first grade classrooms to hone in on the students' phonological awareness skills. With regards to New York State assessments, we want to ensure we address the priority standards from the assessment. So we use our data management system, Linkit, and the instructional data warehouse to help us do a lot of this work. What we do is we disaggregate the data to identify the strengths and areas for growth in student performance on specific standards. We analyze the question stems. Those are the types of questions being asked to familiarize the students with the language and the format of the questions. Then we have strategic planning meetings where we examine the breakdown of the test questions and study language across the grades. We also have grade level meetings where we communicate and discuss the strengths and priority standards among grade level teams. We provide professional development to deepen understanding of the needs, and we look at data from a district, building, classroom, and student level. We don't spend an inordinate amount of time on test prep. We focus on foundational skills and critical thinking skills students need to be successful. We are proud that our students have strong exiting outcomes based on the AP, the Regents, and the colleges our students go on to. For example, our students have a mastery level of 87% on the English Regents and proficiency of 99%. And these results are inclusive of all of our students. Now I'm going to talk to you about interventions, because the backbone of MTSS is really high quality tier 1 instruction. That's the classroom instruction. We want to ensure that teachers have high quality assessments and intervention resources at their fingertips to really effectively meet the needs of students and provide targeted support to help every student succeed. Therefore, we have dedicated a lot of time to curating resources like the one you see here. This is our literacy intervention menu, which supports learners in the big 6 skills and competencies I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to open up this document because it's pretty extensive. and I will take you through it a bit. So as you can see in this document, there are a lot of live links here. This really allows the reading department, our administrators, our teachers to continuously add high quality resources as we discover them, ensuring that we can support student learning. So for example, on this side, you'll see it says, if a student struggles with language comprehension, or struggles with phonological awareness, or struggles with letter name recognition or letter name identification. On this side, you'll see then you can try the following interventions. So we have many high leverage practices attached to this document that teachers and interventionalists can use to support instruction here. And I'm not going to go through every component of this document because it's rather extensive. But we're proud of this document because it was really a collective effort of our team here in Garden City to put this together in a thoughtful and meaningful way that can support our educators and interventionalists in providing those supports. Creating lifelong readers starts with quality learning environments. So if these spaces have the right tools and methods to teach reading, it should be in an appropriate and engaging way for all students. So we implement the science of reading literacy briefs and develop the Big 6 skills and competencies through 5 high impact practices. These practices that you see here offer students opportunities to establish critical and creative thinking, collaborative planning, and problem solving. They include skills like knowledge building, perspective taking, text analysis, joyful and purposeful interactions with language and print, and analytical thinking. And these 5 high impact practices, these are from the Science of Reading literacy briefs. Earlier in the presentation, I mentioned some of the ways we address phonological awareness and print conventions, and we use various texts. But in the next slides, I will show you how we cultivate the Big 6 skills and competencies through some other high impact practices. So another thing I just want to note is that these 5 high impact practices that you see here, I'm just going to go back to this slide for a second, they really cut across all of the subject areas. So the 5 high impact practices you see here are from a K-12 continuum. I just wanted to reiterate that. And I'm going to show you what they look like in action. This document will also be up on the website in the near future. We have 2 of these documents. One is the K-6 document, and the other one is the 7 through 12, because the literacy briefs are broken up into its briefs 4, 5, and 6, pre-K, elementary, and secondary. Okay, so I'm going to open up this document, and this is another document that is quite extensive. So I'm not going to take you through the whole document today, but I do want to show you what these high impact practices look like in action in our classroom. So on the left-hand side here, you'll see the high impact practice, and you'll see collaborative and culminating projects, performances, and celebrations. That is the first high impact practice. Here you'll see examples of areas of the curriculum that are currently addressing this. So here you'll see in language arts, we have reading and writing workshops, oral presentations. In social studies, we have group projects, reenactments and role plays, research projects. In science, this might look like collaborative experiments and lab reports where students observe scientific phenomena. And in the arts, this might look like drama and theater projects, visual arts projects, music and dance performances. Here are some examples of instructional practices that are currently addressing this. So we have a lot of cooperative learning, like structured group activities, talking and thinking routines, like visible thinking routines. We have project-based learning, where students engage in extended projects that integrate all of the subjects. This really encourages teamwork. We also have integrated thematic instruction, which means that we have cross-curricular units that integrate content area subjects. And one great example of this is this year, we had a great time collaborating on Second Grade Street, which was a collaboration with social studies, English language arts, opinion writing, where students in second grade were able to use their opinion writing to talk about Second Grade Street and create stores that they would like to see on 7th Street in Garden City. So it connected to the community, but then they made their classroom hallways Second Grade Street. When this project was brought to life, it was really exciting and engaging for our kids, and really purposeful and meaningful experience to be able to integrate our writing experiences into this social studies project. Inquiry-based learning, where we encourage students to ask questions and conduct research. And of course, technology integration is we want to use these digital tools to elevate instruction. They should support, not replace instruction. And a lot of these tools include Canva and Google Slides and Google Docs. This is how students collaborate, including creating multimedia presentations on Canva and Book Creator and digital storytelling. It is quite amazing to see what our students can do with these tools. So as you can see, I'm just going to scroll quickly. You can see there is the high impact practice on the left, and everything we do, examples of our curriculum and instructional practices addressing this on the right-hand side. And I'll just scroll. I'm not going to read everything to you today. That would take a lot of time. But as you can see, it is quite complex and extensive. Okay, so now I'm going to, after I just get through this, just so you can scan it a bit. And again, this will be visible on the district website in the near future, so you can look at this more closely. I'm now going to go to grades 7 through 12. And as I mentioned before, those high impact practices are cut across the K through 12 continuum, and they are the same. So what does this look like in action for our 7th through 12th grade students? If we look at the same high impact practice here, which is collaborative and culminating projects, performances, and celebrations, we can see examples of areas of the curriculum that are currently addressing this. So for example, in language arts, we have research projects and presentations, debates and public speaking, units on drama and playwriting. In social studies, a lot of group projects on historical events or cultural studies, mock trials and debates on historical and current issues and research projects with multimedia presentations. In science, collaborative experiments and research projects, science fairs and exhibitions, environmental studies projects, and in the arts, theater productions, musical performances, visual arts exhibitions, group projects in music, art, and dance, film and media studies. What does this, these are examples of instructional practices that are currently addressing this. So some examples here, again, are project-based learning. Of course, that's the same as in elementary, but the content is different and what students are exploring are very different. So these are extended projects that integrate multiple subjects, a lot of teamwork and application and knowledge of real-world scenarios. Cooperative learning, like structured group activities. We continue with our thinking and talking routines and visible thinking routines. Cross-curricular units, again. Inquiry-based learning, where we can really tap into students' curiosities and leverage what they're interested in to really support critical thinking and communication skills. Here's our technology again, which is we're using a lot of the same tech tools, but it gets, the students are able at the upper grades to do a lot more with those tools because they've been exposed to them at the younger grade levels. Performance-based assessments like Socratic seminars, assessing students through presentations and performances. and a lot of reflective practice through journaling, entrance and exit tickets, self-assessments, choice boards, and peer feedback. So there is a lot that happens, and this is just one high impact practice. These are examples of what we do here. And again, this document is very, very extensive. So, it will be available for you to see in the very, very near future, but I'm going to scroll through it so you can see the complexity of it and what we do to address these high impact practices. Okay, so I've shown you a lot so far, and I know that it's a lot to take in, but I'm going to now shift to professional learning because it's important that in Garden City that we offer a variety of professional learning experiences over the course of the year. And a lot of these experiences are job embedded. They happen regularly. As a matter of fact, we just had a very successful writing professional development yesterday. It was a 4-hour professional learning experience where our teachers K through 6 came in and experienced different writing rotations and practices that they can bring right back to the classroom in September. And they were very excited to do that. The energy was wonderful. They were really excited about that. But I'm just going to share some other examples with you today of some of the professional learning experiences because there are so many that happen over the course of the year. So this one is last spring, we started a 5-hour literacy professional learning series for all K-5 classroom reading and ENL teachers. And I did this series alongside Lauren Casada, who's the assistant principal at Stratford, and Rachel Lindsay, the assistant principal at Stewart. And what this series was is it explicitly taught teachers how to implement high leverage practices that are aligned with these big 6 skills and competencies we just spoke about. And also we provided them with a ton of high quality resources that they can implement immediately in their classroom. So far we've completed 6 cohorts over the course of the year of this course, and almost 100% of our teachers have been trained. And moving forward, we are rolling this course into our onboarding of our new teacher orientation because we want to ensure that all of our teachers are trained in this experience. This year, we're also, I should mention, we're going to provide release time for our teachers for professional learning to also strengthen their understanding of the big 6 skills and competencies. And I also should mention that our administrators have deeply unpacked the science of reading literacy briefs, and we are ready to create ongoing professional learning opportunities for our teachers. In this slide, you see the Science of Reading micro-credential, and it's currently being offered to all K through 12 teachers. It's a 35-hour self-paced course that really delves into those big 6 skills and competencies. And at this time, it's pretty incredible. We have 34 teachers and administrators, including myself, who are registered for it and or have completed this course at this time. We've spent a lot of time learning about how to effectively use decodable text for the application of phonics skills taught in foundations. And we've even provided teachers with very specific planning templates to implement those lessons. We've also implemented intervisitations, where teachers visit each other's classrooms to observe and learn from one another. And those exchange of ideas, it's really collaborative and innovative in the teaching environment where all the learning happens. And we're really able to cross-pollinate ideas with each other and bring best practices to each other. Additionally, I just want to mention that our curriculum articulation work has been extremely powerful because this was an opportunity to be really intentional about integrating our reading and writing units of study with social studies and science concepts. And we're also collaborating with administrator and teacher teams during that time to add resources like tech sets to enhance this integration. So this curriculum articulation work I'm talking about is also continuing over the summer. to support our efforts. So we'll be ready to go for more collaboration on those units. So our goal is really to continue this work that we've embarked on to ensure that our students are strong readers and writers. And I thank you for your time. I'm going to hand it over back to Dr. Sinha. And thank you so much. We're going to take questions, I think, now.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Kaufman. And I know you presented quite a bit, and we'll make sure that this is up on our website. We've also recorded it, so hopefully we can put that up on our website as well. There are several questions that we did get, so let's try to answer them. Let's see. One is what kind of professional learning is afforded to our teachers, and how much coaching do they get? So in terms of professional learning, we talked to, Ms. Kaufman talked about it a little bit in terms of what we have been doing with the series around literacy. But prior to that, you know, that's been the last, I'd say last year, this year, heavy emphasis on all K-5 teachers, ENL teachers, and reading teachers, getting the 5 hours of the literacy training. But outside of that, we also have consultants that come in to provide professional development. So for example, we have many of our teachers trained in the Wilson. We also have teachers trained in that have come in to our school, particularly to teach around, you know, reading with, and I'm thinking of the, it was the Da Vinci from the Da Vinci group that they came in, that was coordinated by our special education staff, to bring them in, again, to provide intensive, more training for our students that just need more support. I also wanted to mention that, you know, I know Lauren mentioned yesterday we had the writing camp. That is a series that every summer we have, not just the writers camp, but also in the area of reading, quite a bit of training that we offer. So coaching, this year we have added a literacy coach. So for next year, it will be Ms. Kaufman as our director of literacy, but there'll also be a literacy coach. Our principals, when they do go into the classroom, they do a lot of coaching in, because again, we really try to have our administrators trained, well-trained. So for example, with the literacy briefs, we started with our administrators first and then our teachers. So they can also go in and coach into the classroom. And I don't know if anybody else on the panel wants to add anything else to that.
As a continuation of that, there was a question about using student data to support teachers, which happens to deal with professional learning as well. So I'd like to answer that question.
Sure.
So the question is, how are we using student data to learn where teachers need support? It's an excellent question. And in the analysis of the New York State assessment data that we had gotten back, we noticed a need for improvement in Standard 8. Standard 8 is all about integration of ideas, specifically evaluating arguments, evaluating claims, and the valid, you know, how valid is students' reasoning. This school year, we held very focused PD on Standard 8. And we found the PD to be helpful because it was all around authentic student work analysis. And the teachers walked away with a clear understanding of what it is to make a valid claim, what that sounds like. How does an author make a valid claim? How do you dispute that? So we were able to use Stratford and Stewart specific student data to help to hold these professional developments. And the teachers gave us some feedback on it that they have shifted some of their practices. While that standard sounds in-depth and detailed, it really just talks about good practice, right? Good reading behaviors. And that's where we did like the full professional development series on, and our teachers were excited about that work.
Thank you, Mr. Hartigan.
Chris, I just want to add on to that. We've built in time for our teachers to really look at and analyze their data together. So we have Linkit, which is our new data management system where they're inputting a lot of this data into, but now we provide time for our teachers to really look at that data once they've inputted it and look for those patterns that they're noticing together. Because where one teacher may notice that their students need some work on main idea, another teacher may notice that their students are doing extremely well in that area, so may be able to share resources and tools. And I ideas that they're using in their classroom with their students, with the other teachers, they also can identify if there is a grade level need so that we can make sure we're addressing it through our professional development with our teachers on a grade-wide basis as well.
I just wanted to piggyback too on that professional development regarding Standard 8 and what Ms. Hand was just talking about. During that time, not only did the teachers really dig deep into understanding what that standard meant, but then we also talked about strategies that they could go back to their classroom and work on with their students to help really break down the thinking work of that standard. So we learned a lot about the what, right? What is Standard 8? What does this mean for our students? What does this look like as a reader? And then how can we then scaffold that thinking work that the students need to do in their own texts? So the teachers then had an opportunity to look at a strategy and then plan for their instruction. And that was just integrated into their daily literacy instruction using text that they were working on. But now how can we apply this to the text that we're already doing in our classroom? So the teachers walked away with ready to use strategies that addressed that opportunity for growth.
All
And
right,
to
thank
add, to add on to what my colleagues were saying, there were some questions about AIS MTSS. So with regard to the Tier 1 interventions, those are presented by our classroom teachers as evidence in the high quality resources from the series of professional developments and also through coaching in the classrooms. Now that we have a literacy coach as well as our administrators and after school professional developments, once we have our screenings and assessments and the teachers really get to know our children through the assessments as well as through observations in the classroom, then we continuously meet them where they are. And through our MTSS plan, it delineates where the students fall, and MTSS meetings or where our reading teachers and speech teachers can provide additional interventions for Tier 2. And the MTSS plan has been updated and provides those specifics with regard to duration, frequency.
Dr. Sinhai, I'd like to just address a question that I'm seeing here regarding running records.
Sure.
We use, as I showed everybody earlier, we have multiple assessments that we use for many different reasons. One of the reasons we use running records is that time, that one-on-one time that we have with a student isn't the type of time we can get with a student when they're on a computerized assessment. So when we're sitting one-on-one with a student, it's a special time to really see what their reading behaviors look like, how they handle a book, how they turn the pages, how they go back into the text, what kinds of questions they're able to answer. So we use it for a very targeted reason. It is a snapshot. Obviously during a running record, they're given a shorter text, but we really use that opportunity and leverage that opportunity to connect with that reader and observe them as a reader, how they're able to navigate different genres. And that is not something we can do when they sit on a computerized assessment. But we do have that's why we do have other assessments like NWEA, reading fluency, and math growth, because we want to use that data too. And we want to actually look at that data alongside running record data and other types of data to make really informed decisions. So that's why we use running records, is that it really gives us a deeper look to connect, at a student as a reader, connect with that student as a reader, and look at their process as they navigate a text.
So just to piggyback off of Mrs. Kaufman, it's so important when we're thinking about our assessments as well as our instruction that we're not looking at each thing in a silo, but that we're looking at it comprehensively, right? Each of our assessments, each of our programs really provides us with different information, as Ms. Kaufman was just saying. And when we're doing those running records, we're really able to look at a student and how they apply those decoding skills in a connected text. So I just wanted to share a little case study about how an F&P running record really helped us learn about a student this year. There was a particular fourth grade student, and the student actually had been flagged from the past assessment that we administered last year as potentially having some weak phonological awareness. However, the student's other data points were really strong. Their NWEA, their F&P running record, state test scores. So, we decided, because that came up, that we needed to dig a little bit deeper. And we provided that student with a word reading assessment. And again, the student still did very well, because we were learning that this student was such an intelligent student that they were such a great sight reader, right? They have seen words, they're exposed to words, and those became sight vocabulary words for them. However, we still felt like the classroom teacher, as well as the parent who had reached out to us with some concerns, we still felt like there was a missing piece to the puzzle. And therefore, the classroom teacher and myself really dug deep into that running record. We administered the running record together, and then we did a deep analysis of those accuracy errors, right? The mistakes that that student was making in accuracy, and we looked for patterns across that running record. And what we were able to really uncover is that this student was specifically what we would say like a sight reader. They just knew words because they had the ability to recall them after seeing them, exposure to them. But when it came to a word that they were unfamiliar with, they were not able to employ any decoding strategies. And we could see that they would pick a word that made sense, again, because this student was a very intelligent student, was able to make meaning, but the word didn't actually match the visual component, the actual word on the page. And therefore, we were able to provide the student with a tier 2 intervention, just words, which went back and was able to provide them with specific, very concrete instruction in decoding. And this student, I can tell you, has flourished this year. And again, the student was never really showing up as someone who was struggling, but there was something that we can tell was sort of holding them back, even their engagement in reading. And once we uncovered that and were able to intervene and provide that student with that tier 2 instruction that they really needed, we saw tremendous additional growth. And that student, again, became confident in reading because they had learned the word attack skills now that they had been missing. So the F&P running record in that case really provided us with a deeper understanding, because we were able to analyze those patterns of accuracy within a text.
Thank you, Ms. Casada. I know we answered a question on the, in terms of the our MTSS. So can someone take that, maybe Ms. Hand, do you want to take the question around how our students referred to the MTSS or for the AIS?
Sure. So there's a couple of ways. So we do our benchmark screenings 3 different times a year. After we provide all of those benchmark screeners, we look at all of our student data for every student in the building, and we analyze a need for tiered interventions based upon that data. The classroom teacher, our reading teachers, our math teachers, depending upon what the need is for the student, would be involved in those discussions. And we really look at the whole picture, not just one specific data point, but as Ms. Casada was saying, we talk to the parents and we talk to the classroom teachers. We ask what they're observing within the classroom. The data is really a springboard for us to start those conversations. So that's our first way that we have students begin through the MTSS process, is looking at that benchmark data and having conversations. Additionally, classroom teachers can bring students through the MTSS process based on something that they're observing within the classroom. So it can be their performance on classroom assessments. It can be their day-to-day performance on activities within the classroom. It can be based on some of their academic behaviors that they're seeing in the classroom, or even any kind of social emotional behaviors that may be impacting their academics. So again, looking at the whole child. So the teacher can make a referral to the MTSS process, and then we can look at data points and classroom work. What are actual work samples? The teacher will bring actual work samples to the table so we can review those work samples together as a team and determine the best course of action to support that child. It may be an intervention that the teacher is able to navigate within the classroom. It may be very targeted small group instruction when the teacher is meeting with that child. It may be that this child has a need for a specialized program, as Ms. Casada was saying, like Just Words, and then we may implore the help of our reading specialists at that point. We also then continuously track their data as to how they are performing. We progress monitor that those specific areas of weaknesses that we've identified through MTSS. We progress monitor, and we're continually making adjustments as needed to support that student.
To follow up with what Carrie was talking about, every student for MTSS is tier 1. And then tier 1 enhanced. What would trigger a tier 1 enhanced intervention would be a student who is slightly below the benchmarks that Carrie was talking about. Tier 2 students are usually 5 months behind where they should be. That's tier 2. That's usually a pullout service. And then tier 3, you've got a student that might be up to a year behind. And then after tier 3, if they're still not responding, it would usually refer to a special education referral. So that's like the timing of what Mrs. Hand was speaking about.
Thank you, Mr. Hartigan. Let me just see, we have more questions around. And we do have our MTSS plan on the website, Ms. Kaufman, am I correct?
Yes, we do. We recently updated the MTSS K-5 because we have implemented various assessments. That's another thing is we are constantly looking at our student data and the needs and how we can, strengthen our assessment system. And I do see a question here about, whether or not we use DIBELS or Acadience. We do have a variety of assessments in place to assess for phonemic awareness and phonics skills, even using our Foundations assessments in combination with the math reading fluency, which gives us a lot of information around phonological awareness and language comprehension. We're able to really use those assessments as well. Also, daily student writing, student work. It's not just the formal assessments we use, but it's the everyday assessments we use to check on student encoding and decoding skills. We do have DIBELS. We added DIBELS as an assessment in our toolbox for students where if we need to dig a little deeper in the area of phonemic awareness. We can certainly use that for our students. We have so much at our fingertips to help us identify, but we really closely look at our data. We made some shifts this year because we did see that our students were really flourishing with the Heggerty program in tandem with the Foundations program, and they were scoring very, very high on their phonemic awareness and phonics skills. So we decided to give it a trial run in kindergarten in the spring to see how they would engage with the NWEA reading fluency assessment. And in fact, our results really did align with the Heggerty assessments and all of the other assessments that we were administering to look at those skills. Our students were scoring, 90% and higher for those skills. So it was a good decision to make because not only did it give us more information, but it opened up some time for the teachers to focus on those high impact practices I mentioned earlier and have more time for instruction. Another thing we've been really working hard at in Garden City is really to get our teachers to see, along with our administrators, we work together as a team to see that assessment and instruction go together. They are not done in silos, it's not in tandem. So we really are being very intentional about looking at those assessments to make appropriate decisions for kids.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. There's a
I
question
don't,
here.
yeah.
Go ahead,
ahead.
Ms. Kaufman.
No, I was seeing a question too about student samples of formative and summative performance tasks, and we do have samples of student work. We collect samples regularly, but I do really like the idea of maybe collecting more of these assessments this year and making them a little bit more visible, so that the community can see some of these examples that we're talking about, because at this time we don't have them visible. So that suggestion, I will certainly keep that in mind with the team here as we collect some student work.
Mhm. I have a question for you, I guess from our principals. Like, do we, when we meet with our parents, do we share like where they are, which skills their child still needs to work on, or areas that we're working on with their children, showing them their sample work?
I think parent-teacher conferences are one avenue that teachers definitely do share student samples of their work and kind of next steps and personalized goals that are in place for each student based on the standards that we have. Also through the MTSS process, if we have identified an area of need for students, the classroom teacher or one of the reading teachers, let's say, is tasked with the job of communicating with the parents so they know exactly what was discussed at the meeting and what the plan is for the student moving forward. And that starts that communication process so that they can share specifics. This is what we are seeing your child doing right now. This is where we would like them to be, and here's the process we're going to use to get them there. And then there's follow-up communications throughout the process with progress reports, or again, direct communication with the classroom teacher to share what we're noticing throughout the process.
Thank you, Ms. Hand. And I think Ms. Casada, can you go back to the question around the running records?
Of course, yes. So yes, Ms. Delacamera, the running records, especially at the earlier levels, right, those A through C levels, the books do rely mostly on pictures in order to support and patterns. And that is why this year we did make the decision to move away from utilizing. And so coming up in the upcoming school year, those lower levels where it's very much a pattern and then that last word that changes, right? We used to say check the picture, which we now know is not an effective strategy, right? And I'm not saying we, like in Garden City, like in general, right? Generalizing there, but we did shift now to a more decodable reader. As you move up through the text bands, obviously the complexity of the text doesn't rely as much on the picture because there's so much more content going on in the book. So you are right in those earlier levels at 100%. And that is why we made that shift. And we are constantly learning and growing and thinking and bettering ourselves as new research is coming about and making those shifts. And we will continue to do that. So definitely agree with what you're saying there. As for the memorizing of the words, you are right. That student was memorizing the words and there wasn't the orthographic mapping. And we were able to determine that, which is why we provided the Tier 2 Just Words phonics intervention, right? That was both to address encoding and decoding using that program. And then just the last component about the time, our hope, right, is our teachers know our students really well, and they're working with them throughout the year and throughout the time period where they're one-on-one meeting with their readers or pulling small groups. So since they know them so well, the time that it takes to sit down and do a running record typically, wouldn't always be 20 minutes. Because we can sit down and do a quick, 100-word assessment to gather some information about that student. But that time is also time well spent, as Ms. Kaufman said, really getting to know the reader, watching and learning and observing their reading behaviors, and then using that information to adjust instruction, right? That is the most important component of that assessment and any assessment is that we're using what we're learning in that time to make sure that we can meet that student where they are and move them forward with intent and with precision. And we can design specific small group teaching points to be able to provide that reader with what they need at that time.
I'd also like to add on that, you know, we've done a significant amount of work in the last couple of years, and anything worthwhile takes time. It takes a little bit of time. You know, we have to really be thoughtful in the way we deliver things to our teachers. We've had a lot of priorities to move forward, and anything done well is done in small intentional moves that lead up to the big impact and big things. You know, we want our teachers to be doing, and then our teachers are so good, you know, they want to do this work. They're excited about this work. And we need to make it manageable enough for them that they can deliver this with confidence, so that we can really move our readers and writers. So it's these small actionable moves that are really important, you know, for our teachers, for our leadership team, to think about the big picture and all the moving parts to learning and teaching. There's so much that happens over the course of a day in teaching and learning. These are our kids and we want the best for them. But we also want our teachers just to feel confident and capable, and they are, you know, and it's just, we are working so closely with them over the course of time to really move these priorities forward in the best way possible.
Thank you, Lauren. Okay, any other, let's see.
So I just want to jump in and add to what Lauren was just saying about, you know, building over time. I can speak to this from a little bit of a different lens, having been here for quite a while, and I was a classroom teacher here. And even when I was a classroom teacher here, there were some people that were using units of study. There were some people that were not. There were some people that were using different programs in their classrooms for resources. And what I've seen over time is us really bringing in a level of consistency between our teachers, between our grade levels, and across school buildings throughout the district that was so very much needed. We not only did we build consistency, but we really have worked hard on looking at what we're using and making sure that we're modifying it along the way to meet the needs of our students here in Garden City, and really looking at everything we're using and seeing if there's an additional resource that would be helpful to bring in, if there's a piece that we need to let go of at this point, and really being critical about that, but on a consistent basis so that every student in a grade level is getting the same experience and exposure to the standards throughout their time in that grade level. And that's something that I've seen over time here in Garden City that has been a real strength.
I also
Thank you, Ms. Han. Oh, go ahead, Ms.
Sorry, Dr. Sinha. I just, you know, as we're sitting here and we're thinking and all of us are brainstorming, like, and that's this team here, right? Like, what can we do better? What can we do next to make sure that our community has a deep understanding of all of the work that's being done here with our students in the area of literacy instruction? And one of the things that our admin team at our recent retreat was learning about is story mapping, and this concept of looking at the curriculum across a year in like a narrative form, and, you know, working, and that I think will help communicate to our families what exactly each of those units that students are learning in, like what skills are they really working on, and that, you know, what should they be walking away with at the end of this unit, you know, to address one of the questions that, you know, to see the skills in a unit of study and what skills those students still need work on. So that is something, like we keep saying, we're just constantly evolving and growing. And that is something that we are working on, and we hope to be able to use to communicate with our community, you know, during this unit of study. on nonfiction, students will be learning how to synthesize information across a text from a nonfiction text, determine main idea, determine important information. So again, these are all things that we are constantly working on, and we hope to continue to provide our community to strengthen that communication around literacy.
And similar to what Lauren was sharing there, the idea of story mapping, I think, will be really helpful as we move towards that. Is it's a one-pager for our teachers, our students, and our families to have a even deeper understanding of what's being taught. I do encourage everyone on this call today to really check out our website. Lauren Kaufman has curated that with the help of the administrators for our literacy. And if you just go to the homepage on the website, you click under curriculum and instruction, you open up the tab literacy, and then you go to K-6 literacy resources. You click the grade level, you scroll down just a bit after the science of reading information, you click the grade level that you're interested in, and there is work in projects and drafts of maps of really exactly what module your student is in, what they're learning, the connections to foundations, the connections to the units of study. And it is really helpful, especially during the summertime. If you're on this call, just, if you get a few moments, I really, really, really do encourage you to check that out. Lauren Kaufman put that together with the help of the administrative team. And there are some really helpful resources for families there to have a really a deeper understanding of what your child is learning every day.
Thank you, Mr. Hartigan.
So if I could just jump in, I have the opposite experience of Ms. Hands, which is that I just started with the district, and that puts me in a unique position as both a learner and a leader, coupled with, my 25 years of experiences in education, both as a building principal and as an assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction prior to joining this team. And what I've seen in the short time since I've joined Garden City is that our staff and administrators, which I think has been evidenced this morning, are so incredibly committed to students. And also, everyone is very responsive and proactive in their approach to ensuring that everything we do is student-centered. And also, it's a cycle of continuous growth. In addition to this morning, already just yesterday morning, as Lauren had shared earlier in the presentation, there was a 5-hour writers camp for our teachers, which was very well attended and very enthusiastically attended. And at the end of which, teachers had tools to bring back to their classroom toolkit and put into implementation on day one. And so I just, I'm thrilled to be here. And every day I learn something new. And every day I am more and more impressed by what the Garden City School District has to provide for our students. And so, thank you all for being here. I know this is the thank you slide, but I also want to thank you for joining me, letting me join the team. I'm so excited to be part of it.
Thank you, Alice. So I think, we will definitely put all this information up on the website that we have. And in terms of even the link to maybe on this presentation, Lauren, if you can add the link to the Literacy Hub, so it's right on here. So when this presentation goes up, our parents can just click on it and go right into the Literacy Hub to see all the information for our parents there as well. Okay.
Of course. And
we just want to thank everyone for participating. And, again, this is a partnership with all of you. And, as we're growing we're a learning organization, so we're always growing and making adjustments. And I want to thank everyone here. I also want to mention Ms. Voda is on the call as well. There's a lot that she's done at Locust as well with the, and I'm thinking about it, the program she used for our students, again, looking at data, the PAF program, which was implemented for a small group of students. And we saw some, the impact of that on our students with the data that she had shared. So our principals work really hard also when they are looking at data and are making decisions around best resources to use for our students. And again, this is in combination with talking to our parents as well. But there's significant work happening in our district, and we'll continue to do that. And we appreciate your feedback, any feedback that you give us. We look at that very carefully as well. So thank you everyone for participating today, and thank you to my colleagues here as well. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.